Twice a year in the southern Wayne County, North Carolina community of Grantham, flying enthusiasts from eastern North Carolina and farther gather to celebrate the fun of flight. Talking to Mr. Jonathan Gurley now here at the Grantham Airport, and you were telling me, give me a little history about this airport. This was founded by
James Cox and Frank Grantham in 1985, I do believe.
In '85, so it's about 30-some years old.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's been around that long.
And this is that's why it's called the Cox-Grantham Airport.
Yes, sir.
Here in Grantham, North Carolina. Now,
yes, sir.
Now, Jonathan, the organization is known as
Cox-Grantham Air Club. We got about 30 members at the moment.
Is that right?
Yes, sir. About 30 members.
Are all pilots?
90% of them are. Some of them own planes, some of them rent planes. There's some guys that just love aviation and love to be around it.
So you don't have to be a pilot to be a part of the club?
No, sir, you do not. Anybody's welcome. We have an application process and everything.
You have regular meetings?
Yes, sir. The first Thursday night of each month.
Okay. Is that here at the airport?
Yes, sir. Here at the Air Club.
First Thursday night of each month right here at the airport. And what time does it get started?
6 o'clock. We usually eat and everything, have the meeting. Somebody's always designated to cook and have a good time.
All right. So here, how often do you have these fly-ins?
Twice a year. Once in May, this spring flying in May, and in the fall in November, I believe.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
And how many normally are able to come and attend and fly in?
If the weather's beautiful like today, we're expecting 35 to 45 airplanes from everywhere from Georgia, Atlanta, Virginia, from the coast, everywhere.
I've already talked to a couple of people that flew in from Johnston County, and they live elsewhere, but
yes,
they're based there. But
yes, sir.
We expect a range from East Coast all over.
Yes, sir. Probably from 500 to 800 miles away at the most, and a lot of local guys too.
I see a lot of unusual aircraft out here. Some older airplanes, the Piper
yes,
Cubs, and from the 40s, and this aerobatic plane behind
yes,
us
sir.
here.
Yes, sir. There's gyro planes, helicopters, any form of aviation just about you can see will be here.
Anything that can get
yes,
off the
sir.
ground on its own power.
Anybody that's brave enough to fly anything will be here.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Now, tell me about the gyrocopter. We're going to talk to that guy over there in just a few minutes,
yes,
but what do you know about that?
Well, the gyrocopter, the rotor runs with airspeed over the rotors. It's got no drive to the rotor system. It's got a internal combustion engine to push it along. As it goes faster, yes, sir, it's like a fan blade. It starts turning faster and creates lift. So
it creates lift, and so it lifts off the ground, but if it doesn't have that engine going to push it, it won't go anywhere.
No, sir, it will not go. However, you can auto-rotate down to the ground. It kind of glides down using the rotor lift.
Okay.
But you get one chance.
Yeah.
Gravity takes care of the rest.
Gravity takes care of the rest of it.
Yes, sir.
Jonathan, I appreciate you talking with us.
Yes,
We're going to
sir.
walk around and talk to some people.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Yes, sir.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Now we're talking here at the Grantham Airport with Mr.
Randall Robbins.
Mr. Robbins. Where's home for you?
I live in Fuquay.
Oh, do you? Okay.
Right, but I keep the plane based at Johnston County.
At Johnston County.
Yes, sir.
All right. Now, we just saw you land. We saw you do a flyby to start with, and then we saw you land. What kind of plane? Tell me about your plane.
It's a Christian Eagle. It's a home-built airplane.
Is it?
Right. It's got a 200 horsepower with 220 horsepower in it. It's fully aerobatic, plus 7 minus 6 Gs.
Really?
Yes, sir.
So you can really do some aerobatics.
Well, you can have a lot of fun.
You have
with
a lot of fun with it.
Yes, sir.
How long you been flying?
I started flying in '75.
So it's been a while.
Yes.
All right. I won't do the math because I'm not that good.
About 40 years,
About 40
almost
years.
38 years.
How old is this plane? When did you build it?
I did not build it. I don't have the patience for that. But that was built by Mr. Blair up in New Jersey.
Okay.
And he is one of the premier Eagle builders. That's why I bought it from him.
And how old is this plane?
It's a 1980 model.
A 1980 model,
Right.
and it's just it looks like it's in top-notch condition.
Well, you have to keep it in good conditions.
Yeah, you
If
do.
you're going up and doing aerobatics and everything like that, you have to keep the plane right.
So how long have you been doing aerobatics?
About 18 years.
What's your favorite maneuver? What do you like to do the
I
most?
call it a Maytag.
Okay.
It's where you pull almost vertical, and then you just snap the stick back, and the plane just tumbles you.
Okay, I see the Maytag. Yeah.
And then when it finishes up, it comes into a spin.
All right, now how coordinated is your mind and your eye coordination at that time, and your hand-eye coordination?
Well, you always keep sight of the ground as much as you can, so you know where you're at in relation to the air. So once it starts tumbling, I'm actually looking down at the ground.
To the side, out to the side. Okay.
Out to the side, down at the ground.
And that's how you keep your position. All
Yes,
right.
sir.
Very good. Well, I appreciate you talking with us.
Well, you're quite
Thank you very
welcome.
much. I appreciate you.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're in Grantham, North Carolina, at the FlyIn at the airport here in Grantham, and we're talking with Mr.
Hymas.
Mr. Hymas. I appreciate you talking with us. Now, you're from the Johnston County area, right?
That's correct, sir.
What part of Johnston?
Well, the airport's at Johnston. I live up in Wake Forest.
Oh, okay. So the airport, I know the airport out of Johnston, sure.
Yes, sir.
So this is a Piper Cub,
Yes, sir, it is. 1941.
a 41 model. Now, they stopped making these when are they?
Right around 1947, 48, somewhere in there, this model.
Now, as I recall, there was, and this is going back about 60 years, there was a J3 and a J5. Is that right?
That's correct. J5 had a little bigger back seat, and it was supposed to hold 3 people.
Hold 3 people. Okay, I thought it was supposedly. It was kind of a tight fit, though.
It was great for 1, not so good for 2.
And almost impossible for 3.
Yeah, pretty close.
All right, and this is a 19, what did you say?
41.
A 41 model. Now, how many hours do you have on this plane?
On this particular one, I've only got a couple hundred hours. I had a 39 that I bought in 2004, and that one I had about 1,500 hours on.
How long have you been flying?
30 years.
Really? And only Pipers or what?
Only Pipers. Brand loyal, I guess.
Well, that's fine. It was a fine airplane.
Yes, it is.
And extremely safe.
Very safe. Yeah, it's a very safe plane.
Very safe plane. You could almost stop these in midair. They're that reliable.
They have very gentle stall characteristics, so if you get in a bind, they're usually pretty easy to get out of it.
And this plane obviously has been restored. Did you do the restoration?
No, and I usually tell people that right away because they start telling me you did a great job, and I don't deserve that. You know, I showed up with the checkbook.
I always ask first. But it's a beautiful plane.
Thank you. The guy that restored it did a really good job.
Okay, and he is where?
He's back in the Chicago area because that's where the plane was restored, and then the fellow that owned it or bought it from him moved out to California. And that's where I found it.
I appreciate you talking with us.
You're more than welcome.
Thank you very much, sir.
You bet. Have a good day.
Thank you. Thank you. You'll do. We're talking with Gator. Wayne, how you doing?
Good.
Yeah, why do they call you Gator?
Well, I used to go to the gym with my boss. He's about 6'4".
Okay.
And we used to lift free weights. And he looked over at me one morning and he said, "That's not fair. You don't have to lift the weights as far as I do because you got those little gator arms." And that was 14 years ago.
Okay, and it's stuck.
I've been Gator ever since.
All right, I'm here at the Grantham Airport, and do you fly a gyrocopter?
Absolutely. It's called a gyroplane.
Gyroplane, I beg your
Yep.
pardon. Now, why is it called what is it? What does a gyroplane do?
Well, a gyroplane is somewhat like a helicopter, only it does not have a powered main rotor. The wind drives the rotor as you're flying through the air. It goes up through the rotor blades and causes them to turn.
Rotor blades.
Right.
Okay, and causes them to turn.
And that gives you your lift. It's like a rotating wing.
Okay, but it's motorized. I mean,
Right, that gives you your forward thrust.
Okay, but I'm saying the rotors are motorized.
No, only
They're not.
it has a hydraulic pump down here off the main engine that when I'm at the end of the runway, I engage it. It goes up and engages that flywheel below the rotor blades, and it brings my rotor blades up to about 2/3 of flight speed. And then I let go of the engagement and head down the runway, with the cyclic held back, which tilts the rotors at the maximum tilt back, and then the air going through the rotors brings it the rest of the way up to flight speed, and it sort of takes off, not quite like an airplane does like that.
Yeah.
A gyroplane takes off more like an escalator.
Okay.
And so
Instead of at an angle, it takes off at
a fairly
on a
level.
plane.
Yep, sure does.
Now, so this is not a motorized part of the.
No,
of the,
no, just at the
moving through the air is what does it.
Exactly. So as long as I'm moving forward or coming down, I've got the winds going through the rotor blades and giving me my lift.
So these are not going to stop as long as you're moving.
That's right. You hope.
All right. Well, tell me about the push.
Okay, the push is a aviation Rotax engine. Rotax is out of Austria, and it's a 2-cylinder, 2-cycle. So it runs at it runs at very high RPM. When I'm taking off, I'm at about 6,300 RPM, and in straight and level flight, I'm at about 5,400 RPM. So you get a lot of power out of a 2-stroke engine. It's only got 2 cylinders, and it makes 65 horsepower.
Okay.
So
65.
that's pretty standard for most light sport kind of aircraft. You'll see a Rotax engine on a lot of them.
I remember a Volkswagen engine had about 60 or so horsepower some years back in the 60s.
Yep. In fact, the yellow airplane down on the end's got a Volkswagen engine in it, and it makes about 65 horsepower.
So you've got the lift from these and the thrust from this. This pushes.
Right.
All right.
So your lift overcomes drag or gravity, and your thrust overcomes drag.
And this is lift.
Yep.
Lift, thrust, and drag.
Yep.
There's one missing. What is it?
Gravity. That's that's what causes you to come down when everything quits.
Well, does that happen?
Well, actually, we practice an engine out landing. Most guys that fly an engine out landing, because when you're coming in, you've got the energy of the rotor blades are even picking up a little bit more energy as you're coming in at an incline. So you can just take and pull the throttle back on the engine. You don't need the thrust anymore.
Right.
Gravity's bringing you in, and then you get down close to the ground, you level out, and when you're ready to land, you do what's called a flare. You just pull back on the stick, which throws the rotor blades back in their maximum back configuration, and it's kind of like throwing a parachute out behind you.
Oh, okay.
And you just come down, boom, land, roll a couple feet.
So how much trouble do air currents give you?
This is actually more stable in the air than a fixed-wing aircraft. A fixed-wing aircraft, the wing is attached to the fuselage by hard framing. So whatever those wings do, you know, in turbulence and thermals and such, so does the fuselage and so does the pilot.
Right.
Whereas this is sort of like being up in the air on a leaf spring.
Okay.
The
on
rotors,
a leaf spring.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the rotors kind of give you a springing or a cushioning effect, so you don't feel it hardly at all.
Wow. Okay.
I can go up and fly in 30-knot winds, whereas a guy in a fixed-wing aircraft typically won't do that.
All right, Gator. Thank you.
Thank you.
We're talking with Mr. Eddie Richards here at Cox-Grantham Airport at the FlyIn today. How you doing?
Doing great.
Appreciate you talking with us.
Thank you.
Where's Eddie Richards from?
Originally from Louisiana, Shreveport, Louisiana.
Shreveport. All right.
But I pretty much grew up right here in Grantham, North Carolina.
Okay. Well, it's a good place to grow up.
Yes, sir.
Tell me about your airplane.
It's a Range Rider that was built in probably 1997.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I got it, the wings were off of it. It hadn't flown since '99 that we know of, and so we've refurbished it and new paint scheme on it, and it's got a 1600 VW engine in it.
Oh, has it?
Yep.
All right. So, well, it looks like you just pushed it off the showroom floor.
Well, we've got 16 hours on it now. We're
whole
still in
16 hours. My goodness.
They put you in a 40-hour box to fly the hours off of when it's new like that.
Right.
And, so it's got 16 hours on it right now.
All right. A lot of people confuse this with a Piper.
No, not that I know of.
Oh, really?
They compare it
They
to
know the
a
difference.
they compare it to a Satabri or a small Champ or something like
Okay.
that.
Yeah. Okay, I can see that. So how long have you been flying?
About 6. Well, I started when I was about 22,
Mm-hmm.
and then I got out of it for about 24 years when my son was born.
Oh yeah.
And
I
raised
understand that.
raised him. So we just got back into it about 6 years ago.
Okay. Well, that's beautiful. And you're based here at Cox-Grantham.
Cox-Grantham, yes,
All
sir.
right. All right, Eddie, I appreciate you talking with us.
Thank you.
Thank you. Still at Cox-Grantham Airport. We're talking with Shane Kilpatrick in front of this beautiful airplane. This is a Piper, isn't it?
It's a Piper Clipper.
Clipper?
Yes, sir.
All right. Now, what was the difference? It's a little larger airplane than the Cub.
It's a little larger, 4-seat, 135 horses. This one, and it's a little faster, a little quicker to get off the ground. Maybe.
Maybe.
But
You got a good
a little
tail
more,
there,
a little
right?
more comfortable
A
anyway.
little more comfortable, right? 4-seater.
4-seater.
So, what year is this plane?
That one is 48 of it, if I'm not mistaken.
All right. So, how long have you been flying?
Oh gosh, I don't even really know. So,
Okay.
a long time.
A long time.
Yes, sir.
All right. So, you have this plane and you have others in your hangar as well. Tell us about those.
Yes, I have a few projects around most of the time, but as far as flying right now, we have I've got a Eros over here behind me, the yellow and white one. I built it about 10 years ago, I guess.
Right.
It's actually an all-wood airplane. It started out as a bunch of sticks.
And Eros.
Eros, yep. It started out as a factory-produced kit.
Mm-hmm.
It's been pretty well modified, so it's kind of I made it my own. So it's ended up pretty well.
You do acrobatics in it?
No, sir.
Okay.
Once, if you see me doing acrobatics, call somebody.
I'll call
'cause-
somebody. He's ready for the farm.
That's right.
All right. So the Eros is how old is that plane?
Like I said, it's about 10 years old.
10. Okay.
It's got a JDT 4-stroke engine in it, which is one of the reasons I built it. I had just before that I had two strokes let me down and put me in the fields.
Uh-oh.
So I was determined I was going to be flying behind the 4-stroke after that.
All right.
And then we've got a ultralight behind it. It's a Quicksilver ultralight.
All right.
It
Motorized?
it is motorized. It is 2-stroke, but you're traveling along at a whopping 35 mile an hour, so you're not going to hit very hard wherever you do fall.
Kind of easy breezy.
So that's right.
Yeah. All right. All right. So how high does your the ultralight get?
The
you don't want to get too high with it.
Yeah, usually you'll get cold before you get too high. You get over 2,000 or 3,000 feet, it starts getting chilly.
Chilly out there,
Yeah.
yeah. So how fast is your Eros?
The Eros will cruise around about 80 mile an hour. It's
Okay.
pretty happy.
All right. That's okay. And your Piper here, how fast?
125 or so.
Okay.
So.
All right. Very good. Shane, we're at the FlyIn today here at Cox-Grantham Airport, and this is, I understand, this is a twice-a-year event.
Yes, sir. We do one in the spring, one in the fall.
And you are the former president of the
Correct.
of the,
Yes, sir.
of the group. Well, I appreciate you speaking with us,
Yes,
and
sir.
I thank you
Thank
very
you.
much, sir.
Thank you.
All right.
All right.